Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2024 Wells Fargo DFS Tactics show. We're going to run through this very, very quickly as there is a lot of severe weather around where I live. So going to try to get as much covered as I can, as quickly as I can. So all statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It's best golf analytics still out there. I say that every show. Go check out fantasynational.com. You won't regret it. My social media is in the description. If you want to see my research, the top players that I use in my DFS lineups every week, and my weekly betting cards, that is also posted on social media. I'll post my betting cards and my top player usage later on this evening, presuming I have power. But my social media is in the description, and Gabe's social media handle is in the description. He writes a very good article called The Fringe. I highly suggest you go check that out. And then lastly, for this very brief intro, we're live. Chat's open. I've got a poll question set up. Who's your winner? Who are you targeting? Who are you fading away from? Don't want to waste any more time. So let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2024 Wells Fargo. We're going to start and go very quickly to the forecast at Windfinder for Charlotte. The poll question for this evening: how many 6K players are you thinking of using in your player pool this week? 0, 1, 2 or 3, or 4 plus. So there's the poll. Would love to hear the community's thoughts on that, or what you plan on doing this week for the Wells Fargo. The forecast, because this is a no-cut event, don't want to pay too much mind to it since everybody is guaranteed to have 4 rounds. However, I would say that if you wanted to try and find incremental advantages, and the weather could be a part of that, you might want to target the players that are teeing off early on Friday. That does not necessarily mean those who are teeing off late Thursday, since this is a small field and whatnot. It'll be important to look at tee times. So go ahead, if you want to factor in a small advantage, maybe the Friday morning. But again, this is a no-cut event. It's a limited field. There's no wave stacking per se. But if you wanted to try and gain a little bit of advantage that way, it would be in the Friday morning. All right, we'll go to Fantasy National very, very quickly. Because there appears to be quite a bit of wind in the forecast throughout the majority of the tournament, especially tomorrow and even a little bit late on Friday, let's just go ahead and check very quickly moderate and windy conditions. You see I've got some players starred trying to gather the ownership projections. Our top players in moderate and windy conditions: Rory, Victor Hovland, Patrick Cantlay, Xander, Will Zalatoris, Wyndham Clark, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, Corey Connors, and Denny McCarthy. The other filters you can look at: absolutely difficult relative to par, and on long courses. Quail Hollow is one of the longest courses on the PGA Tour, but considering we just went to Windfinder, figured I would show you the top wind players. Let's go quickly into the mixed condition model that I have made for Quail Hollow this week and the Wells Fargo Championship. 10% off the tee on long courses. Driver is going to be in players' hands 80 to 90% of the time at this course, just not the par 3s. So I want to see who is the best, not necessarily just with distance, but accuracy as well, just off the tee in general on long courses. 15% in strokes gained approach, 10% in putting. I did end up erring on the side of caution, seeing how much putting factored in last year at Quail Hollow, especially in 2021 as well. And you see the filter multiple courses. This is just that Poa Trivialis that we have talked about a lot. Stadium course, Harbor Town, Innisbrook, TPC San Antonio, TPC Scottsdale, all of those courses. So 10% on Poa Trivialis putting. You will notice that I don't have any around the green. That was the last metric to get cut in this week's mixed condition model. 5% in good drives gained when it's difficult. 5% in greens gained when it's difficult. I could not separate these two in terms of which of the two that I wanted to look at. So instead, I just put 5% in both because I do think both of them are going to be pretty important. We saw that throughout the night Monday, just how much in the prior leaderboards that both of these metrics contribute to upper leaderboard success. 5% in each of those. 15% in bogey avoidance when rounds are difficult relative to par. Pars are good scores around Quail Hollow, so the more bogeys you can avoid, the better. 5% in total procs. 5% in 200 plus proximity. Again, much like the good drives and greens, I could not separate out which one of these that I wanted to focus on. So instead, I just decided to put 5% in each of them because I do think both of them are going to play a decent factor. Very, very interesting part of the mixed condition model. And my angle for the week, you see no par 3s, no par 5s. It's all about the par 4s here at Quail Hollow, and I spent quite a bit of time Monday night talking about this, how these par 4s are the most important on the PGA Tour. It is the highest number in terms of strokes gained total at any consistent course on the PGA Tour. 15% in par 4s, 10% in the 450 to 500 par 4s. I would have loved to have put extra percentage in this range of par 4s, but considering I was not able to separate out good drives gained, greens, total procs, 200 plus procs, that's 20%, 5% in each, that I was already devoting to other places. I just ran out of percentage. So 10% here. I would have liked to have put 15. It is what it is. And then lastly, 3-putt avoidance. The 3-putts are pretty common around Quail Hollow. So I wanted to see who the best 3-putt avoiders were, and I did filter on the Poa Trivialis filter. So there's a look at the mixed condition model. Again, no around the green, no scrambling. I do think in a perfect world, I would have incorporated that somehow. I just ran out of percentage. No par 3s, no par 5s. Again, I'm just on this big angle of all of the par 4 mattering, just all of the par 4s, and then lots in the bogey avoidance and per usual strokes gained approach. All right, let's move to my rankings. The reveal of my rankings for the Wells Fargo this week. Quick reminder for those who are returning viewers, for your information if you're a new viewer, my rankings are based on 3 criteria. The FNGC rank, which is a straight numerical ranking based on the mixed condition model we just covered. The course value, which is a value given to a player on how well they have played that course the past 5 years. So Quail Hollow, it's only actually 3 years, 2023, 2021, and 2019. I did not go back to the PGA Championship when it was held at Quail Hollow, 2018, and of course 2020 was canceled, 2022 was played at TPC Potomac. So that's what course value is. And then we are playing DFS percent owned per Fantasy National. These are Fantasy National projections. So percent owned is also a factor in my rankings. We are playing DFS. We are trying to find unique options. My rankings for the Wells Fargo go as such. Xander, number 1 this week. Rory, Tony Finau, Brian Harmon, and Wyndham Clark round up my top 5. Jason Day, Corey Connors, 6,300, Emiliano Grillo, 8th in my rankings. Hideki and Akshay Bhatia round out my top 10. A little bit of surprise here from Emiliano Grillo, but look, he's played Wells Fargo very, very well, and he's very unique. So that's why he's rising. Brian Harmon's been a little bit less in terms of success at Quail Hollow, and you wouldn't think, at least conceptually, this would be a good fit for him since this is a very long course and he's not a long hitter by any means. He's very unique, so that's why he is rising, but even the numbers happened to like him. All right, enough with that. Let's go through the price board, see where the chalk seems to be, and figure out where we want to pivot off of that. So in the 5 digits, in the 10Ks this week, we have 3 players. Rory at 11.8, Xander at 11.5, Wyndham Clark 10.5. You see all 3 of these players are in my top 5. All of them are getting a whole lot of attention. I like all 3 of these players. I'm probably going to make Xander my number 1 player, although he's probably going to be the most chalky, except for maybe Wyndham Clark. I do like Xander's consistency. Rory has struggled typically on this surface, but he does love this course. So I like all 3 of these players. I will give the slight nod to Xander, then Rory, and I think Wyndham Clark is third. I'm making him third because I can foresee him being quite popular for good reason. I mean, he doesn't have a bad statistic across here, no red or pink statistic, but I think he's going to be quite popular. So I'm going to try and gain just small incremental ownership and uniqueness off of Wyndham Clark. Moving into the 9s, I like Tommy Fleetwood quite a bit. I have to think he'll be more than 11%. The irons haven't been great, no, but excellent bogey avoider when it's difficult, which is what you have to do at Quail Hollow. He takes advantage of par 4s. We know how important those are. So I like Tommy Fleetwood. I like Max Homa, but you see he is 18%. He's garnering a lot of attention. I want no part of Colin Morikawa. Victor Hovland rates high, but man, I don't know if I can trust his current form. He has played well here, but man, that is very tough to stomach his recent form. The boldest thing I think I can say about the 9Ks, and maybe for this week, if Sahith Theegala plays well, I will lose. This is a fade for me. This is a full fade. Yes, his irons are good, but he has really struggled to avoid bogeys when it's difficult. He is third in this field in putting, but he's got a lot of pretty poor statistics. The long par 4s he's not terribly great at, or he hasn't been this calendar year. Good drives gained when it's difficult, meaning hitting fairways, hitting greens. Next to last in this field. Deep red in greens, deep red in procs. This is a full fade for me. He did not play his one time at Quail Hollow, which was last year. He did not play it well, so this is a very bold, scary fade for on my end. But if Sahith Theegala plays well, I will lose. This is a full fade. Like I said, I like Tommy. Cantley's okay. I just kind of up in the air with Patrick Cantley. Don't know what to think of it. I like Homa. I do not like that ownership. I don't want any part of Colin. I don't want any part of Sahith Theegala. So really, I'm not in the 9s a whole lot. Probably tells you the kind of lineups I'm building. But I will use some Tommy Fleetwood. I do like Tommy. Moving into the 8s, Hideki rates out well. That's fine. Extremely popular. I don't know. It's okay. I'm surprised he's as popular as he is, at least per Fantasy National. Little concerned with Cam Young, especially since he did not play this very well in Quail Hollow is one of the more predictive courses on the PGA Tour. Anytime it's tough, you got to think about Fitzpatrick just because he is such a good scrambler, such a very good bogey avoider, and he's the number 1 putter on this surface the past 24 months. It's okay. Not in love with it. I do like Siwoo a little bit less in terms of ownership than what I would have guessed. I do like him, but I am concerned with his lack of performance at Quail Hollow. Thomas, Spieth, no thank you. You're playing Russell Henley on the ball striking narrative. It's fine, but just realize or understand he has been really poor here. And then at the very bottom of the 8Ks, I understand the love for Tony Finau, and I understand why Brian Harman's not getting a lot of love, but I like both of these players. So based on that, I would have to recommend Brian Harman more because he is so ultra unique. The irons are fine. They're slightly less than average in this field. Very good bogey avoider. His big draw is the par 4s. Top 10 in this field in par 4s. He's top 10 on this surface. And he's also third in 3-putt avoidance. So I like Brian Harman quite a bit. It's quite speculative, but if Brian Harman does not play well, I will lose. So again, in the 8Ks, I like Siwoo. Fitzpatrick's fine, just common. And then I'll be using some Tony Finau and a lot of Brian Harman. If Brian Harman doesn't play well, I will lose. Moving into the upper sevens, J-Day and Corey Connors. I usually try to stay away from a chalky Corey Connors. I don't think I'm going to be able to. Granted, he is rising quite a bit because I don't have any around the green in this mixed condition model. That is what's catapulting him up quite a bit. But he is second with irons. Irons are so extremely important here at Quail Hollow. He's also extremely good with both proximities, total prox and the long iron proximity, which is key also around Quail Hollow. So I do like Corey Connors. This is some chalk I will eat. J-Day is very unique. He has played okay here, and he's very unique. I probably said that twice, whatever. First in bogey avoidance when it's difficult. Fourth in putting. Off the tee on long courses. He can still move it if he has to. He plays well enough on the par fours. I like J-Day. I like Adam Scott. But Zaydenhout rated out 7th in the mixed condition model. I don't see it. I don't see this being a good fit for Zaydenhout. I guess it's because of the par fours. I'm not in love with it, to be honest with you. Like, I am much lower on Zaydenhout than what this would suggest. Instead, I'd be going to Batia. I know he's popular, but the guy's in great form. You know, the win at the Valero last month, third in irons, 10th or top 10, I should say, in par fours. The off the tee, much better than Zaydenhout's. Third in long par fours. And look at these proximities from Batia. Top 10, top 15. So I know he's popular. This is some chalk I'll eat. But I really like Batia as well. Moving into the low sevens. I don't like Tom Hoge. I know he's the number one iron player, but he's not played well. He lacks a lot of distance. Look at this off the tee. It's really, really bad. And the 3-putt avoidance has actually been really bad. So I don't like Tom Hoge much at all. I know he rated 6th by the numbers, but very, very poor history at Quail Hollow. Fairly popular. No thanks. Instead, I'll just go to Adam Schenk, who I'm a little bit more confident in. He's played much better around Quail Hollow, around the same ownership. Yeah, the irons aren't nearly what they are with Tom Hoge, but he also doesn't have as many glaring weaknesses either. The putter is fine on this surface. Plays the par fours of this long length, 450 to 500 pretty well. I'll just go to Adam Schenk between Hoge and Schenk. Moving into the sixes, there are 2 players I would like to recommend to you all. I'm going to mention Taylor Moore. This isn't one of the 2 recommendations. I will mention Taylor Moore, although you see he is garnering quite a bit of attention from the members of Fantasy National. It does make quite a bit of sense. I do like Taylor Moore. I do not like the ownership. The 2 players I want to recommend to you all. I spent quite a bit of time talking about Brendan Todd Monday night and how you can't expect him to gain 9 every single tournament at Quail Hollow. But that's what he's done. He's averaged gaining 8.8 per tournament at Quail Hollow. The guy just really, really likes these greens. He's a great putter in general, yes. But there's something about these greens, and that's what you're playing him for. That and the uniqueness. You see that course value. He's averaged a top 20 finish in 3 tries here. 2019, 2021, and 2023. Averaged top 20 finish. So there's something about this course that just fits him, even though it is a long course. And then, of course, Emiliano Grillo, top 10 in my rankings. He's played very well here. Pretty darn unique. Off the tee, the irons are better than what is shown. You see the good drives and the greens, both top 15. I mean, even the 200 plus procs, even though it's pink, is just slightly less than field average. So a lot to like there with Grillo. So those are the 2 6K plays that I want to recommend for you all. All right. I know we're running through this fairly quickly, but pretty severe weather is in right now. For those who play tiers contests, Tier 1, we have Rory, Xander, and Wyndham Clark. Just like I said with classic lineups, I think I'm going to give the slight edge to Xander, but I understand if you want to play Rory because of the course value. He did win this in 2021, and he won it back in 2014 or maybe 15. 1A and 1B. I'm going to go with Xander. I don't blame you one bit if you go with Rory. I do think Wyndham Clark is a pretty clear third. Hey, good evening, Barbarian. Thanks for jumping in chat. Apologies, Myrtle Beach is Nora 2K. It's okay. Not a big deal. I will be anxious to see and watch some of that tournament tomorrow and throughout this week. See how the course plays. But no issue, no apologies needed. Thanks for jumping in chat. I apologize that this is going to be a really short show, but you were there last night. I was actually streaming during a tornado warning, and I didn't even know it. So not going to make that mistake again. I'm going to try to rush through, or get through this. So there's Tier 1. Tier 2, Patrick Cantlay, Tommy Fleetwood, Max Homa, and Colin Morikawa. I'm going to go with Tommy Fleetwood. Max Homa also a good play, but I'm going to go with Tommy Fleetwood. And just because I am thinking about it, is called the Dunes Golf and Beach Club. So there you go, Probarian. If you tried to search for TPC Myrtle Beach, you wouldn't have found it. That is what that course is called. It's the Dunes Golf and Beach Club. But again, absolutely no apologies are necessary on your end. Appreciate the thought of you thinking about trying to check it out. Tier 3, we have Victor Hovland, Sahith Theegala, Hideki, Cameron Young, and Matt Fitzpatrick. I don't like much in this tier at all. I guess give me Matt Fitzpatrick. I'm not terribly high on Cam Young. Hideki is fine, but he's going to be pretty popular would be my guess. And Sahith Theegala is, my bold fade of the week. So give me Matthew Fitzpatrick in Tier 3. I'm not in love with it. Tier 4, Siwoo, JT, Jordan Spieth, Russell Henley, Noren, Ben On, and Harmon. Yeah, I mean, Henley maybe because of the ball striking, but yeah, give me Brian Harmon. If tiers ownerships or anything like Classic, I mean, he's going to be really unique. He's been okay here. Give me Brian Harmon in Tier 4. Tier 5, Tony Finau, Sung Jae, Zalatoris, Jason Day, Corey Connors, and Adam Scott. I don't think this is as clear as Brian Harmon was in Tier 4. Tony Finau's good. He's going to be popular. J-Day is very unique. Connors is probably the safe option. Let me see. Let me get a real quick gauge on how ownership is. I mean, all three of these guys are going to be popular, but Xander's probably pretty popular. Fleetwood, my guess is he's probably pretty popular. Tier 3, Fitzpatrick, maybe not as much as these others. So might have gotten some uniqueness there. Tier 4, Harmon's very unique. So we don't have to worry about ownership based on the tiers construction that we've built so far. Because of that, I might go Corey Connors. But I do like if you're worried about some uniqueness, I do think Jason Day is a pretty good play especially for tiers. But give me Corey Connors based on this construction that we've got going. And then finally, Tier 6, we have Adam Schenk, Chris Kirk, Poston, Tom Kim, Ricky, Andrew Putnam, and Adam Hadwin. Pretty clear Adam Schenk for me. Not really interested in anybody else in this tier. So this tier's construction goes Xander, Tommy Fleetwood, Matt Fitzpatrick, Brian Harmon in Tier 4. Tier 5 will go Corey Connors, and Tier 6 will go Adam Schenk. All right, let's move to classic lineups, build some lineups that appear to be what our fellow contestants seem to be doing and how we can pivot off of that. look, with no 5K plays, majority of our fellow contestants are going into the 10Ks. I'm going to use Wyndham Clark. He is the most projected owned player per Fantasy National. It could be any one of these three guys, but Wyndham Clark is also the cheapest. If our fellow contestants are dropping into the 6Ks, it looks like it's for Taylor Moore, Austin Eckroat, maybe some Matthew Pavone as well. In fact, Kitayama's getting a little bit. So, honestly, they could be doing like some kind of superstars and super scrubs look. Wyndham Clark, let's use one of them. We'll go with Eckroat. He is the most common per Fantasy National, but it very well could be Taylor Moore. So Wyndham Clark, Austin Eckroat. This probably does leave them enough to go into the 9Ks. Sahith Theegala, just because I am completely off of him this week, we'll put him in here. This could be Max Homa. This could be maybe Hideki at 89, but we'll use Theegala for them. And then they'll drop down into the 8s. Probably a Hideki, maybe a Cameron Young. Why don't we throw in Hideki into this one? Matsuyama. And then they still have 7,400 per player. Essentially, they could do like a Tony Finau and a 7K. Maybe like a Batia and Jaeger. I think that might be 100 over. But just to give you an idea of what is looking like. So Batia, 19%. Jaeger's at 15%. Yeah, that's 100 over. So if they drop off of Eckroat, they'd have to come down to Taylor Moore. No, where is Eckroat? He's at 66. So Pavone at 65. Maybe if instead of Hideki, maybe they're playing Cam Young. That is the exact price. 17.5% sounds ugly. Again, remember this is a small field, so it's not the most common, but it's still pretty darn chalky. There's also lineups that seem to be being built that are probably going something to the effect of like Rory, Max Homa, still maybe even trying to squeeze in another 8K, say like a Justin Thomas, because there are 6Ks, a few 6Ks that are getting some attention. Again, Kitayama, 10.5, Taylor Moore at 11, Eckroat at 11.5, Pavone 10. So it very well could be you could see some double 6 lineups this week. We used Eckroat. I'll use him again just because he's the most popular. But let's throw in not Taylor Moore but Kurt Kitayama into this one. Oh, okay. So they're gonna have to jump. They'll have to drop down a little bit off of Thomas. Go to say Tony Finau. Yeah, and then 7,400. Unfortunately, would be Jaeger, who's 100 off of it. So maybe Tom Hoagie. You know, maybe it's not Max Homa, maybe it's Theegala here, maybe it's Hideki, or actually, you know what? Instead of instead of Hoagie, we will come up to Batia, and instead of Rory, it's Xander. Like, there's another potential stars and scrubs or super stars and scrubs. Because there are some 6Ks getting some attention. If our fellow contestants are building balanced lineups, it looks like they're starting with more than likely like Max Homa, Theegala, maybe Hideki. This might be a bit too much, but they might be able to pull it off. Tony Finau, or Ginau apparently is. If I could type. And then 7,300 would be like Batia, Jaeger, and Adam Schenk. Again, there's that 17.5 from the first lineup that we made. Very popular. If you encounter balanced lineups, they're more than likely going to look something similar like this. Maybe Homa becomes Fleetwood. Theegala could be Cam Young. or Hideki might be Cam Young. So move these percentages around a little bit and these names and pricing. That looks to be a fairly common balance lineup. So how are we going to maneuver around this? Well, I've told you I'm not too much into the 9K, so that tells you the kind of lineups I've been building. So let's try to build a balanced lineup in that case, because that's not the kind of lineups I've been building the most. So if you're going to try to get unique in a balanced form or balanced lineup format or shell, I'm going to start with Tommy Fleetwood again. I think he'll be a little bit more popular than this 11%. I would think more in the 13 to 14%. But it does appear he is quite unique off of Max Homa. So I would start these balanced lineups with Tommy Fleetwood. If you have any confidence in Patrick Cantlay, that might be a good play as well. But I'm going to start with Tommy. And quite honestly, I'll probably just kind of drop down into the 8s. Like I mentioned, Siwoo Kim I kind of like. Russell Henley, you're playing for the ball striking, although it's a little bit more suspect. But throw in Finau, who is quite popular, but you can fit him into this quite easily. Finau and Brian Harman. And you don't even have to flirt with the low 7s. You can do someone like Jason Day, Corey Connors. You know, you're leaving 300 on the table, and you're looking at more than likely a pretty darn unique lineup, especially if you're willing to combine Harman and Day. A very, very balanced look here, starting with Fleetwood. Using Harman, who's at 6%. Jason Day's at 4.5%. But Day's played okay here. He's played all right at Quail Hall, so don't ignore him. I know the irons haven't been good, but he is the #1 bogey avoider when rounds are difficult. And if there's anything consistent about Quail Hollow, it is that it's difficult. He's also very good with par 4s. He's the 4th best putter on Power Trivialis. So don't ignore Jason Day. But the lineups that I've been building the most are these stars and scrubs, because I gave you a couple of players in the 6Ks, Brendan Todd and Emiliano Grillo. So I'm going to use Grillo, who is top 10 in my rankings. You can use Rory. You can use Xander. I've actually been pretty even on how I'm starting my lineup, both Rory and or Xander, because we use Xander in the chalky lineup. Let's use Rory. You know, you still have the opportunity to go Rory and Tommy Fleetwood, who I've been doing a lot based on this perceived uniqueness. I think Rory and Homa is going to be a little bit too chalky to use. I don't want any part of Colin Morikawa. If you have any confidence in Victor Hovland, like, you could probably use a Victor Hovland as well. And, you know, looking in this 7,500 range, you got plenty of options in the low 8s and 7s. You know, again, that Brian Harman, Tony Finau range. If you have any confidence in Zalatoris after his withdrawal last week, I'm going to stay away, but maybe you're not scared off. We can use Adam Scott. We haven't thrown Adam Scott into many lineups. I haven't talked about Shane Lowry. I'm fine with a Shane Lowry. Of course, Batia, who's going to be very popular, but I really like Batia this week. Harris English, he's played well here. You can take a long look at Harris English as well. So let's do a Batia. Let's just see where the ownership ends up if you decide to use a Batia with a Rory. So you're getting up there a little bit in terms of ownerships and lack of uniqueness. Let's see. Denny McCarthy, we didn't talk about a lot. You're playing him for the putter. It's okay. You might get a little bit of uniqueness off of him, but I wouldn't be too crazy about it. Harris English, maybe. Like, you're looking at 13%. You probably get duplicated maybe a time or two in your big GPPs just because you have Rory and Batia, who are two of the more popular players, but you can absolutely move some of this around. Like, I'm not in love with Victor Hovland. I was just using him for a little bit of uniqueness. Like, for me, this would be Tommy. and I would move some of this money around. Maybe come off of English. Definitely would come off of Scott. But you can absolutely move some of this around. Let's go with Shank. We'll go with English. And then that should give us 78. Like, yeah, Jason Day or Corey Connors. Like, there you go. There's your uniqueness for your stars and scrubs lineup. If we did Connors, who's a little bit more popular, yeah, it'd be 12.5. Still not bad. Still not bad, especially for a small field event. The last lineup I want to show you, I'm going to call the Gabe Special. Him and I have been in contact for the past couple of days, talking about how we wanted to attack the DFS slate for the Wells Fargo. And he was asking me about all the 6K plays that I felt comfortable with, because he is trying his best, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he's really wanting to do a Superstars, Super Scrubs lineup. And you see, you've got 6,600 per just for the remaining 4 players. It's very, very hard to do, but he's been trying to do this. So let's try to build that kind of lineup. You might not be able to do it with these two, but maybe it's Rory and Wyndham Clark. Maybe it's Xander and Wyndham Clark. But let's try to find throw in the 2 big boys here. For me, again, I'm going to go with Griot, and I'm going to go with Brendan Todd. We still are only averaging essentially 7,000. It's really hard to do. I don't think you're going to be able to do it unless you're willing to maybe even triple dip into the 6Ks. I can't imagine doing that. Like, I like Griot quite a bit. Brendan Todd has played very, very well here. I didn't talk about Justin Rose. He's only played this one time in the past 5 years, but he did finish 3rd. Maybe. The iron's been bad. The off the tee's been bad, but he does have good course history. But it's just really, really hard to combine those 2 big boys. Instead, more than likely, unless you're willing to triple dip into the 6Ks, it's a Xander / Rory and a Wyndham Clark. See, now you're able to squeeze in a whole lot more here, averaging 7,600. Like, you could go into the 8Ks even if there's somebody up here you like. Probably not going to be able to do a Hideki. But you could do like a Matt Fitzpatrick. Gosh dang it. A Matt Fitzpatrick or a Siwoo Kim if you wanted to. Let's try Siwoo. Well, a little bit too much. Yeah, you might have to go to like Tony Finau or Brian Harmon to do it. Yeah, 7,200, which would be Shank at 71. So very, very difficult to build the Gabe Special this week, which is this. Unless you're willing to either triple dip or use players at 61 and 6,000 that I'm just simply not comfortable doing. I mentioned Justin Rose. You could also think about Gary Woodland. He's played very well here, but man, he does not have much in the way of form at all. I mean, hardly any form at all. I can't get there. I would like to see some kind of recent form. So that is what I have for you all. I apologize for the shorter show. Severe weather in the area. To answer my own questions, I have probably what I would say is 2 to 3. I will definitely be using quite a bit of Griot. If he does not play well, I will lose. I'm going to be using some Brendan Todd, and I'll probably have Taylor Moore in a lineup or 2. He's just going to be too chalky to invest in too much. But I am going to have, a handful, 2 to 3 players in the 6Ks in my player pool this week. So that's my answer to that. One and done. I wish I had some bold suggestion for you all. I'm just going with Rory. He loves Quail Hollow. It's a signature event, so you're going to get some money out of it. even if he doesn't win, I'm just confident in his performance at Quail Hollow. So I'm going to go with Rory in one and done. But thanks to Brobarian for jumping in chat. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. Again, I apologize that it's a shorter show, but I can't control the weather, and it's pretty severe around me. So please keep me up to date throughout the week and weekend on how you are doing, both for the Wells Fargo and the Myrtle Beach Championship. I will be in Gabe's Substack chat here momentarily, considering I still have power for the moment. And be on the lookout over on social media, as I will post my betting cards and my top player usage for both tournaments this week. For all the wagers you've made this week for the Wells Fargo Championship, for all the DFS contests you play this week for the Wells Fargo Championship, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.